All right, everyone. Looks like we're ready to get started. Once again, good evening. My name is Dominic Green. I'm the program manager of the Keys to Equity ADU program. And remember, this program is provided to you all through Richmond Neighborhood Housing Services. Right. So thank you all for joining us once again. I'm very excited to have you. As a reminder, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Charles, our dedicated housing counselor, will go ahead and come off mute and let me know whether or not to stop and answer the question, or if we can keep going to the end, he will let me know to be sure to go back and answer those questions. Okay. All righty, let's get started. So, what you're looking at right now is an entire overview of the education program provided to you by Keys to Equity. Right now, you're in the overview, the introduction module one. Right. Next week, if you join us, you will be going through module two, financing your ADU. The week after that, we'll talk about general contractors and architects, and modules 4 and 5, which we'll do together. We'll talk about managing tenants and landlord legalities. And then after all of this, we'll do a wrap-up session that you can join to get your questions answered. Okay. But again, today we're just going to go through an overview of the program. So if you have questions, general questions, please put those in the chat box or hold them until after. Um, and as we're going through this presentation, you may have questions about specific pieces of the process, maybe like financing or actually working with the contractor and architect, right? I'm going to ask you to hold off on those questions for right now and bring them into those the following weeks, right, in which we'll be discussing those topics. Okay. All right. So on this first slide, what we're looking at are partners and supporters. Okay, we have a main finance partner, Self-Help Federal Credit Union. That's who worked with us to develop those two portfolio loan products that we'll talk about next week. And we're super excited to dive into that. That's one of our largest offerings in this program. So you'll hear more about that next week. Okay. Below this, you see our program design partners, right? The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, the City of Oakland, Blink Lab Architecture, San Francisco Foundation. Of course, we have Richmond Neighborhood Housing Services, right? RBA Creative, and again, Self-Help. Okay, so together we all worked to develop this program and pilot it. And it's been a great experience thus far. So I'm really looking forward to having you all experience the work that we've put forth. Okay. Now let's dive into this, you all. What is an accessory dwelling unit? Okay, so many of us have our own ideas of what a tiny home is, what a micro cottage is, what an ADU is, right? But in general, an ADU is really a secondary residential unit that you will place on your primary property. Okay, the majority of you all here today are homeowners already. So if you built an ADU, you'd more than likely be looking to put that ADU in your backyard. Maybe you're looking to convert your existing garage into an ADU, or maybe you're looking to add on to your home, right? That can also be considered an ADU. Now, for it to be considered an ADU, you must have your own entrance to that space, but also it must have its own kitchen, bathroom, and living area. Okay. Without one of those, it would be very difficult to get it legalized, right? And remember, in this program, everything needs to be legalized for it to be um, permitted, obviously, right? Cool. So that's what an ADU is. Here on this slide, you're looking at uh, three potential benefits of building an ADU. You all probably have some benefits you can think of on your own, but in general, what we're seeing is folks are building ADUs to address housing shortages across America now, right? But for sure in Oakland, as you all know, there's a limited amount of housing that's affordable. So building ADUs automatically adds to that shrinking supply. So you'd be doing the city of Oakland a favor, right? If you built an ADU on your property. But you can also be doing yourself a favor, right? You can gain additional income, right? Through renting it out. But also something that we don't think about is that it's going to add instant value to your property as well, right? And lenders and appraisers are starting to understand how to factor in that ADU into the appraisal of your property. Okay. Flexibility. Maybe you just want to build an ADU so you can live in it, or your children, or your parents, right? Your aging parents, right? Those are all reasons why you might build an ADU. And these are just some of the ones that stood out to us the most. But like I said, you may have your own reasons for or benefits you can think of for building an ADU. Okay. All right. So what is the Keys to Equity program? Okay. This is kind of what it would look like from the start to the end, right? You all come to us like you are here today. You let us know you need assistance. You fill out an interest form. Charles reviews that based on the information you submit. He may or may not provide you with an application. Once you get that application, Charles again is going to work with self-help now to determine whether or not you're right for their finance product. Okay. And then let's say you were able to get that construction financing. Well, now you're able to experience the true benefits of the program, right? You get some design and project support, right? Of course, you got the financing piece already, but then there are a few other resources we're going to talk about in another slide as well, all right? But the financing piece is something that we pride ourselves in, right? Again, we've built two portfolio loan products with self-help, so that is our strongest offering to you. So that's where we're going to start, of course, right? You can't build anything without knowing you can pay for it. Okay. And again, going back to what we talked about in the previous slide, uh, building a new ADU will create additional housing units in Oakland, but also provides you with more flexibility as a homeowner. Okay. Cool. Program overview. So let's continue to talk about what is the program, right? And we're going to do this by discussing the what, why, and the how of the program. Okay. So the Keys Equity Program is a program in Oakland that streamlines the process for constructing an ADU. Okay. Or renovating and legalizing an existing unpermitted ADU. So maybe you've built an ADU already on your property, but you didn't go to the city and you just need support with getting it permitted and legalized. We can support you with that as well. Now, all of this is done through providing you all with a suite of resources that we'll talk about more so in the how and on the following slide. Okay. So going to the why, again, we've discussed a few different benefits of building an ADU, but why does the program exist for supporting those benefits, right? Well, the process of building an ADU is really daunting for the most part. It can be, right, if you're not experienced with it, because it requires so much time and expertise, okay? And it requires you to understand construction financing in a way that supports you to get through design and permitting, okay? So that's why we exist, right? We're going to support you with all these steps, A through Z. We'll support you with vetting your contractors if needed, right? We'll support you in speaking to your architects to come up with their design and all of these different things. But we understand it as a homeowner, you have your own life. It's difficult to be a real estate developer and live your normal daily lives out, right? So that's why programs like ours are super important. Going into the how, right? All of you all, once you fill out an interest form and you get that application and you get approved, you'll get a dedicated representative to the Keys Equity Program. And that might be myself, it might be Charles, or it might be another member of our team. But we're going to work with you to determine your financial feasibility, right, for completing this project. And obviously that means getting into construction financing. Okay. Now, remember, you're not required to use self-help's product, and we'll talk more about the reasons for that later, but you're not required to use that product. It's just something we would highly recommend that you do use, being that it's a portfolio product and we've worked to change some of the limitations that most products on the market that they come with, right? So that they can better serve you, right? Okay, so continuing along the how, right? These are some of the program services that we offer. Okay, and we've spoken about some of them already, like the financing. But let's go from the top, right? Program management, right? Again, you're all going to get that dedicated representative. So at any duration, at any point of the project, you can stop and ask us questions, right? If you have questions about your lending draw schedule or the contractor has concerns, right? You can always come to us and we can help guide you and help you navigate those discussions, right? Design and permitting, right? This is probably one of the pieces that takes the longest, and that can be some of the most confusing for homeowners. Um, One way that we're working around this is by providing you pre-approved designs, right? Through the city of Oakland. Um, our program actually has three pre-approved designs that, well, not pre-approved designs, I wouldn't say that, but three additional designs that we're working to get pre-approved through the city of Oakland, right? But they will help speed up that process of permitting, right? Because they've already been reviewed before. Um, Folks who work in the building and planning departments of the city of Oakland, they're more familiar with these designs since they've seen them once before, right? So this can potentially speed up permitting, right? But that is a support that you get here, right? You won't have to do that by yourself. You can leverage the support we will give you with your general contractor and architect, right? Now to talk about contractors. Um, Most of the time folks come to us with contractors, right? But if you don't, We do have a short list of folks that are qualified to build ADUs in the city of Oakland. Okay. But we will always recommend that you call and get estimates from 2 to 3 at minimum. I'm going to say 3 to 4, I would say, right? But 2 to 3 is the sweet spot. Okay. Typically, you can see some patterns in 2 to 3 estimates, or you'll have a general idea of what something costs, right? So regardless of whether or not we shared a list with you or you have your own list of contractors and architects, you should be calling at least a minimum of 3 at all times to get estimates. Okay. And then the last bullet point is about financing, right? Next week, we're going to dive into this a lot more. Again, just to reiterate this, Self-Help's been a great finance partner. We work to develop 2 products that we think you all will be able to leverage a lot more than some of the other products on the open market. So we're really looking forward to um, diving into that next week, I would say, right? So if you have questions about it, try and hold off unless it's something that you really want to know. Go ahead and place that in the chat. But I know this is where a lot of us have concerns, fears, and questions. So this is why we take it so seriously here in the financing piece. Okay, here are some best practices for being a part of the program. Always provide your best personal email and phone number. This is how we're going to reach you. We'll always try email more than likely first if it's not something very pressing. But if we can't reach you via email, we will reach out to you via phone. Okay. Check your emails frequently, but this is how we're going to communicate to you regarding your application and your status um, towards lending, right? Be prepared to give detailed financial information and documents. That's the only way to get you into construction financing is for us to really know what's happening behind the curtain, right? If that makes sense. Also for Self-Help Federal Credit Union or the lender of your choice to know what's going on in your life a little bit, just so we know um, how much debt you can actually take on without putting you in a situation that's going to be super uncomfortable for you. Okay. All right. Now, how to get started. If this interests you, we recommend you go on our website. And on that website, you will see the second link below, which is a link to our program's interest form. Remember, once you fill out that interest form, Charles is going to review it, follow up with you, and decide whether or not to move you over to the application, which is a little longer, not very long, but a little longer than the interest form, which is pretty short. And then from then on, we'll decide whether or not you're eligible to move towards construction financing with self-help, right? Um, but it starts here. You go onto this website. I would highly recommend you read it if you haven't already. Read through the information, and then decide whether or not to fill out the program interest form, right? It'll be around 2 to 3 days before someone reaches back out to you. It'll be myself or Charles, more than likely Charles, who's been great with following up. Um, so expect that outreach, okay? But be sure to go on the website and fill out the interest form, right? If you have questions about that, you can email us at keys to equity at eastbaynhs.org. We would also really recommend that you email us directly to our personal emails. Charles will put those in the chat, okay? We may respond a little faster that way, but you have the option for both, right? So now what I'm going to do is stop my share. I thank you all so much. We can now jump into some Q&A.